I'm thinking that.
American Gothic, man. I think you should have it.
It should be Alan and I like
You and
this.
Alan.
My name is Kent Winrich. I'm Chief Technology Officer for Open Broadband, North Carolina-based WISP, and this is Glenn.
My name is Glenn Knox. I work for the North Carolina Broadband Infrastructure Office, and I serve as a technical consultant. One of the main challenges we have in North Carolina and probably throughout the country is getting reliable broadband, high-speed broadband out to rural entities and citizens. We've struggled with this for many years, and challenges are finding vertical assets to use wireless off of. For instance, the location we're at here, we're on a silo. As long as we can get some distance in the air and we can get to serve people, that's the main goal. But it's finding those vertical assets that have always been the challenge. And one of the things that we've come to the conclusion of is wireless technologies appear to be one of the main factors for us getting out to those types of entities. And at least that's the solution that will get us in the short term and probably into the long term as well.
Oh, definitely. Well, here in North Carolina, we've got some very tall trees, and it ranges from pines to deciduous and sometimes a mix. So during the seasons, it's constantly changing the signal levels, so we always have to over-engineer the lengths for summertime. But the trees and a lot of the rolling hills, and as you get into Western Carolina, we've got a lot of mountains out there, needless to say, and a lot of valleys where you don't have any vertical assets to speak of. And so to cover some of those valleys, you just have to go into a micropop situation. We try to do a main hub and spoke, but then try to get into smaller areas as we get into fill in some of the knolls that we have. But it is a very challenging situation going from very flat land out in the east to very mountainous, where we have the tallest peak east of the Rockies here in North Carolina. So it's a very broad range of terrain that we have to deal with, and a very broad range of a clutter that we have as well.
One of the things that we have here in North Carolina is we have what's called the MCNC network, and they serve all K through 24 schools inside of North Carolina. So schools in this instance aren't really an issue, but serving the students to their homes is an issue. In 2017, they decided to remove money and funding for school books. But if you don't have connectivity at home, then, well, that's not going to help. So a lot of families that don't have connectivity end up going to hotspots at McDonald's, and even some of the schools will have extended their Wi-Fi out into their parking lots so that a family can pull in, grab a laptop, do their schoolwork as they need, and then go home. That's what people are having to do.
And it's literally every county we talk to. Yep. We hear the same story. We have to take our kids to McDonald's. We have to take our kids to the library. We see kids, even though the library is closed, sitting outside of a library in a car or just off their bikes, trying to get their homework done. Yep. We started out with line of sight only, and realized that there's only so far we can get. And working with BiCells and LTE, it's the complete game changer. We are reaching far more people than we ever could have with just line of sight. And we're actually doing backhauls with LTE into areas to do micropops as well. So having the ability to go shoot through trees like that is a total game changer, and is reaching people that we never could have even dreamt of getting to before. Well, we're just very thankful that the state and Glenn and their whole office, they've been very helpful into helping us understand where some of the projects are coming up, where their interest is, getting involved in the grant process, getting us involved in the grant process, and also getting us involved in some of the RFPs that are out there. So it's a good give and take where I think we help them out with a little bit of information on some of the technologies, and they help us out with governments such as counties and towns coming to them saying, we need help with this type of project. Then they come to companies like ourselves and others with what the project is, and then help us start to communicate with those people.
Yeah, we recently were contacted by a county because they were having an issue with a grant that they were putting out. They didn't understand whether they needed to put an RFP out or not. And so, we've counseled them into the fact that, yeah, you probably need to do that. Probably is going to be a good idea to do that. And so a lot of times the counties and cities and so forth, they know what they want, but they don't know what resources to go to. And that's kind of what we kind of played that role in a way of, well, here are all the wireless providers in the state of North Carolina, okay? Invite who you wish. There you go. And then that way we're kind of a clearinghouse of information on that side of it.
And I think that the county and local governments have a good trust for this office, because they really have, the only skin in the game they have is trying to get broadband out there. So they have a little more trust with more of a neutral party. And then they bring in organizations such as ourselves into present what we can do for them.
Yes.
But I think it's great having a neutral party kind of consult them and move them along in understanding what can be done for them. We've been deploying bicells, ODO6s, and setting up our antennas to be 4 ports so that we're pretty much carrier aggregation ready. And just to have more frequencies available to us, more bandwidth available to us is just going to keep us on the edge of being able to provide better service. With the limitation of 3.65 gigahertz right now, we're limited to how many channels we can use, and therefore we're limited to how many sectors we can get up and channel reuse. And moving over to CBRS, we'll have much more bandwidth in addition to carrier aggregation, which is really going to help some of these areas, because we'll be able to turn up the speed a bit for them, which is going to be a big deal for these people. And a lot of these people are 1 meg or less on DSL, if they even have DSL. A lot of people are still using hotspots, and so opening up CBRS is going to be a very big deal for people that are in very strong need, students, elderly residents and the like, and people that work from home. They're going to need this bandwidth to be able to do business, to do school, to take care of themselves. So Open Broadband is about 2.5 years old, and it started when my partner Alan and I, previous to opening Open Broadband, we kept seeing each other at broadband events. And so we got together and thought, we're talking a lot about broadband, but what are we doing about it? And we saw that there's a big need, especially in North Carolina, for broadband. And we thought, well, what if we put together a company that would serve the underserved and the underprivileged, and concentrate on that, not go into the big cities where they've got a lot of different competition and all that, but let's go to the areas that really need it. And once the studies turned into actual projects, and we started creating public-private partnerships with counties where they would give us some money to help us deploy, and they would also give us vertical assets such as water towers or radio towers that they have. And then we started working with communities, people in the community, such as using farmers' grain elevators or the silo like we're at here today. And it kept growing and growing, and the money that the counties gave us as part of this public-private partnership was very key to getting us off the ground and being able to start offering broadband to communities that have such a strong need. I mean, we're talking about communities that may not even have real good cell phone in the area. And we're talking about areas that are not so deeply rural. We're talking about some of these that are very close to towns as well, that are still sub 1 meg with DSL. But they need service. And if they don't get service, people will move out. There'll be a brain drain. Businesses will move. We've heard many times where businesses are moving because there is no broadband, or people will not move into an area because there is no broadband. And so we're trying to help these areas out by giving them the ability to have broadband and to maintain their population and keep them educated and keep them healthy and keep them connected to the rest of the world.